But today I'm going to talk to you about how we're reviewing and improving training at HSS for upskilling all of our staff to meet all these new challenges around technology and everything else. So I'm going to quickly walk you through the 6 questions that we have to address. So why do we need a training program? And this is not just for HSS, this applies to the industry as a whole. Who do we need to teach or who needs to learn? What skills and technologies are actually necessary rather than would be nice to have? What do we actually need? Which training courses are the most effective? Is this forum the best way to train people? I would argue no. How do we create and nurture a learning culture? And the obvious question is, when are we actually going to lay all this out and get this done? Okay, so I've not used ChatGPT to write this presentation. I've done this myself. So first of all, why we need a training program? So from a corporate perspective, we believe that training is important around productivity. We want to improve how our engineers produce drawings. We want to make sure there's no gaps in our skill sets. And we want to develop a learning culture and ensure people are trained. So we've broken down our training into job skills and soft skills. So here are all the things that the engineers need to be able to do to deliver their job. And here's all the stuff that they need to be able to do as their soft skills. So being able to communicate is a key soft skill that every engineer should possess. So we've looked at our talent and we've gone through the organization and said, okay, how is our company actually built up? And based on the information we have from HR, about 11% is actually management. 36% are engineers who do design work and are based primarily in our offices. And the largest proportion of our staff are actually site-based staff. Clerks of works, supervisors on site. The actual more than half the company are not in the office or on site. So that's also a challenge, that you're not just training people that are actually in the building, you're actually training people that are outside. And then, just to give you a sense of it, these are the titles of all the people that work for us. So some people are engineers, some people are superintendents, some people are managers, some people are document controllers. There's a wide variety of skill sets across a company the size of HSS. And the same when you get to site. There's a very broad range of people, from clerks to resident engineers to supervision engineers, QA, QC. The training has to be bespoke to each individual person. So you can't just take everybody and give them the same training program. You've got to teach them certain skills for their job, not just broad kind of spectrum stuff. So what we're doing now is we're doing an assessment across our entire organization, and we're asking these kind of broad questions. What software are you currently using? What skills have you learned in the last 3 years? Either come to a conference, through CPD, online learning. How are you actually building up your skills? How do you find out about these courses? How do you find out about these materials? And what skills do you have that you can teach to somebody else? The question that I find most interesting is going to people and say, what do you know that you're willing to teach somebody else? And you'd be amazed when people come up with it in terms of, I know how to do ChatGPT. I'm now a prompt engineer. I can do GPT. So great, you need to teach everybody else. But I don't know how to do a presentation. I don't know how to train somebody. Because teaching somebody else is also a skill. So we have to figure out how we teach them how to do that. So let me show you quickly what software we have in a company the size of HSS. And this was actually a bit of an eye-opener for me myself. And then we've got all of these different software for the highways team, the civils team, the bridge team. So they're all individual applications that all have different purposes. GIS and geotechnical solutions for infrastructure. When you drill into the structures team, they've got a whole bunch of structural analysis software. And then when you drill into BIM, we've got EcoSim, Revit, Navisworks, all that usual stuff. When you get to drafting, we've got 4 different CAD programs for the drafting team. So there's a whole variety of software across the organization. So being skilled in one and not being aware of another is not useful. So we want to be able to figure out, how do we map all these different skill sets? So we've got 25% Autodesk, 25% Bentley, 25% ProCAD, and 25% everything else. Right? So you can see that if we just focus on those 3 big chunks, we'll have covered 75% of the staff. But there's another 25% that we've also got to get value from. Now this is what we're doing, this is what we know about now. The challenge is taking on board some of what the other speakers have spoken about today. What's all these new technologies? So what new technologies do we have to be aware of? So I've broken it down. I've got BIM, so you've got being able to model, being able to coordinate, being able to manage the issues. Then when you get past BIM, you've got to get to virtual reality, so safety training, which is going to become a huge thing with OSHAM. Then you have to get into common data environments. Then you get into 4D simulations for planning. There's a whole bunch of stuff for planning. Quantity takeoff. And then you've got the other stuff going on here, drones, augmented reality, data analytics, and my favorite, artificial intelligence. And on here I've got ChatGPT and Pictory. And yesterday, Google announced Bard. Right? So now we've got to catch up with Google and find out what the hell Bard is. Is it better than ChatGPT? Is it different ChatGPT? So you can see just on that slide alone, these are technologies that, are, apart from BIM, are not generally being used in our business. And we have to figure out how we're going to train and upskill our staff to find out which staff need which of these skills to make them more productive. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a plan around training programs. And here's where the world has to change. We have relied for too long on classroom training. Whether that classroom training is by external partners like BIMage or by the other companies, whether that training is by our own staff, or whether that training is extra-curricularly. We need to start looking at a much broader range of solutions driven by the staff, peer-to-peer learning, lunch boxes, having people get a lunch and learn something, basically looking at videos, what's on YouTube, what can you find on YouTube to learn something. And then you have to go back to old school email, sending out an email once every week, once every 2 weeks, this is a new skill, have you learned this, and everything else. The key thing that I've observed in the last certainly the last year, and if not in the last 3 years, training has got to go from an 8-hour class or an 8-hour session down to 15-minute bites. Because people need to find out a solution to a problem, and they need to do it quickly, and they just need to know where to find that answer. There's no point sending staff away for an 8-hour session. They come back, they've forgotten everything. The way I look at it, we look at employee orientation. So when someone joins a company, they're given the whole spiel about how HSS works, how our training programs work. We'll then have skills training. So we'll have technical training, quality training. And this is where, if you take OSHAM as an example, and safety training is further down. So when you get to external training, how do we train our staff to understand these new OSHA requirements, these new OSHAM systems, right? We got to set up the right training. And I still believe that mentors and peers are our best bet. People in the organization training juniors. People in different disciplines sharing knowledge with other disciplines. So how the engineers share with the CAD team, how the CAD team share with the site clerks. This is actually more valuable than external training. The internal knowledge is more valuable than the external knowledge. So currently in HSS we have over 75 courses that we run every year. And it's broken up by different departments. So there's HR training, there's BIM training, there's protege training. And what we're doing is we're working to a training framework. This is for each member of staff, for each new skill. You have to figure out what is the learning objective, so they can tell you what they've learned at the end. You figure out what style you're going to use, how you're going to deliver the training. Then you figure out who the audience is going to be. Then you have to advertise it. You have to actually go out and tell the staff, hey, on Friday, we're going to do a lunch and learn, and we're going to learn about ChatGPT. Make sure you come. And at the end of the session, you've actually then got to do a questionnaire, get some feedback. Was Ronan a good presenter? Was the content valuable? Did you learn something? What did you not learn? And then see, did that meet your objectives? And then go all the way back to the start, figure out, okay, is that the right course? Is that the right content? And run it again. And this is a continual loop. Always learning how to improve your training. Don't just create a training course and say, that's it, we're done. And come back in 2 years' time. This is continual learning culture. So I hope I've given you in the last couple of minutes the 5 W's and the 1 H for training in an organization. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
I will take the particular block.